welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucy and in today's video I'm going to talk you guys through my all-time favourite romance books. So if you're new to my channel, you may not know I am a romance obsessed person, and I'd really say over the last few years I've really gotten into the romance genre, and Regency romance has become a massive obsession of mine. But also I've tried to read more contemporary romances and trying to, broaden my horizons when it comes to romance. And I've accumulated my all-time favourite books for you today so that I can give you guys some recommendations on some swoon-worthy romances, and hopefully some of these will be your favourites as well. So as I mentioned, I started getting into the romance genre because I'm a big history fan and I love historical fiction. And then I discovered the Regency romance genre. And I have a whole video about Regency romance which I will link down below or above somewhere, where you can check out everything you need to know about Regency romance. So these are my top recommendations, some tropes that are used within the genre, and just some other essential info you need to know about it if you're a complete beginner to that genre. So there are going to be a few Regency romances in this video today, as I have so many favourites, but I also really wanted to talk about non-Regency and non-historical romances as well. So hopefully there'll be something for everyone in this video. So to kick us off, I am going to start with kind of historical romance, and in particular Regency romance, because I have 3 Regency or Victorian romances that I want to share with you, and 3 authors in particular who are my all-time favourites. So let's kick off with Lisa Kleypas, who is my queen of historical romance. I adore her books so very much, and actually Lisa Kleypas was the first author I read in the Regency romance or Victorian romance genre, and it just really got me into romance in general. So Lisa Kleypas has 3 super popular series: The Wallflowers, which I'd recommend starting with first, The Hathaways, and The Ravenels. All of these series are very interconnected, so I would really recommend starting with the Wallflower series to kind of kick you off and get you introduced to all the characters who will become major players in this series. So my favourite Lisa Kleypas romances in these 3 series, I'll start with the Wallflower series because I have a clear winner of what my favourite book in the Wallflower series is, and it is Devil in Winter. And the Wallflower series follows a group of girls who are all wallflowers. So basically they are looking for husbands, but they often stay, on the sides of all the ballrooms because men don't ask them to dance, because for some reason, whether it's, that they're not popular in society or they do not have money, men just tend to avoid them. So the 3rd book, Devil in Winter, is my favourite because it features our most timid wallflower, the quieter one of all the girls, called Evie, and Evie meets this character. Evie meets Sebastian Lord Vincent, who is the most incredible love interest ever. He is very dark, he's very kind of like bad boyish, he's very rakish, and if you are a fan of that kind of like innocent sweet girl meets like very bad boy, and they both bring out different qualities in each other, then this book would be perfect for you. With the Wallflowers series and other Lisa Kleypas series, I would recommend reading them in order because it does help you get to know the characters, but you don't have to. You can also read these independently. So Devil in Winter is a clear recommendation of mine. If you've never read it before, what are you doing? You will adore this book because it is so well done and so romantic and incredible, and I adored this book. Then I wanted to quickly touch on my favourite book in the Hathaways series by Lisa Kleypas. As I said, these are all very interconnected, all these series, but my favourite in the Hathaway series is a book called Love in the Afternoon. So I've recently finished this book series, and Love in the Afternoon was by far one of the most incredible books I think Lisa Kleypas has written. So the Hathaway series is actually about a family called the Hathaways. They are very destitute, they're down on their luck, and the series kind of sees their fortune be reversed, where they, marry very well and they fall in love, and basically each book takes each of the family members in turn to give them the happily ever after. Now, Love in the Afternoon takes on the quirkiest Hathaway, who is Beatrix. Beatrix is obsessed with animals and has like a mini zoo inside their house. She's very quirky, she's very unusual, and even though she's very conventionally attractive, a lot of men, you know, kind of just think she's like a friend, and they look very nicely on her, but she is kind of this kooky woman who has all these animals. And Love in the Afternoon sees her fall in love with someone who initially was very, very rude to her, and then she starts to write him letters when he goes off to war, under the guise of the woman that he actually fancies and wants to be with. And basically, if you're a fan of like a hidden love, in the sense that, like, you know, Beatrix is pretending to be someone else, this will be perfect for you. The romance was so perfect, and I just loved both of their characters. This is by far my favourite book in the Hathaway series. And then finally, the Ravenel series, which I must say is definitely superior in terms of the other series. Like, the writing is so much better, and, you know, it gets more complex, I guess, in terms of plot. So my favourite book in the Ravenel series is Marrying Winterbourne. And this sees Lady Helen Ravenel meet a business tycoon, Rhys Winterbourne, who is basically a self-made man, which in the Victorian era was obviously kind of a new concept. So he is like wildly rich. I think he owns his own department store, I think that's right. And basically they fall in love, and it is perfect. They are both very, very different. So I love romances where the main characters, the love interests, are very, very different from each other, because obviously they will have a lot of tension, they will clash, it'll be angsty. It's great. So those are my 3 favourite Lisa Kleypas books. I then wanted to go on to Julia Quinn, who has kind of risen to fame, especially in the past year, because of the Bridgerton Netflix series. Now, I did watch the Netflix series of Bridgerton, but I also read the book series like everyone else on BookTube. So my favourite book in the Bridgerton series is When He Was Wicked, which I think is the 6th book in the Bridgerton series. This follows a character called Francesca, who we often don't see in the earlier Bridgerton books, because she has actually been married earlier on in the series, and basically her husband dies, and this book is all about her falling in love with her late husband's brother. And this book was just very like grown up, I guess, because like Francesca had been in love before, you know, like she was already married. So I just found this book very, very special in terms of the romance, because it was a very different type of romance than we see in the other Bridgerton books. So the Bridgerton series in general is incredible. I really would recommend it, but in particular, I did like the later Bridgerton books the best, I think, just because, I don't know, I feel like Julia Quinn really got into her stride there. The writing's a lot stronger. The romance is still incredible, guys, and honestly, When He Was Wicked was just my favourite book by far. And the final historical romance book I wanted to mention is A Rogue by Any Other Name by Sarah MacLean. So Sarah MacLean is also another Regency romance author who just writes incredibly romantic, brilliant Regency romance. And this is basically about a man who loses his inheritance, and he knows he has to marry very well in order to make that money back. But basically he is a bit of a scoundrel, a bit of a wastrel, and he sets his sights on Lady Penelope, who is obviously got a lot of money. She's very aristocratic, but they actually used to know each other when they were children. So he sets his sights on her, and basically, let's just say, there's a lot of angst along the way. There is a lot of drama, there's a lot going on. But honestly, Sarah MacLean, I haven't read a lot of her books, but I really did appreciate A Rogue by Any Other Name. And I also really want to continue that series, just because it really impressed me reading this book, and it's definitely by far one of my favourite Regency romance books. Okay, so it's now time to get on to the other romance books on my favourites list that aren't historical romance or kind of Regency romance. So let's kick off with a contemporary. So this is The Light We Lost by Jill Santopolo. So this book is a massive tearjerker. So this is a super emotional romantic read. Basically, it's an epic love story of 2 people, Lucy and Gabe, and they meet basically on the day of 9/11. I believe they meet on the campus of Columbia University in New York, and they basically fall in love. And over the next 13 years, they basically fall in and out of love. They get together, they tear apart, but they always find themselves like drawn back to each other. So this is like a really epic love story on a very, very big scale. It's told across 13 years, so it's very epic in that sense. This book is genuinely incredible. The writing is stunning, but what I really loved about this book is the fact that it's very, very heartbreaking. It's like a gut punch, honestly. You get to the end of this and you are just like, wow, that was just amazing. So I really would recommend this book if you're after something heart-wrenching, emotional, epic in all senses of the word. The Light We Lost is definitely one for you. Now the next book I wanted to recommend is something a lot more light-hearted. It is Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. So you've probably all heard of this book. It was everywhere a few years ago, Red, White and Royal Blue. I think this is like a very, very beloved romance novel, but this basically is about the son of the President of the United States and the Prince of England, and they basically fall in love, and they have kind of like a enemies to lovers situation going on where they both find each other like pretty intolerable, but for the interests of like both their countries getting along, they have to just put up with each other at all these kind of like, you know, inter-country events. Then they end up falling in love with each other, and it is just perfect. It's very funny, but it's also quite like emotional at times as well, because each of these characters have their own stuff going on, their own kind of problems with their families, and of course the fact that they are in positions of power. You know, one is Prince of England, one is the son of the president, so it's very high stakes, and both of these characters have like a lot to lose along the way in terms of like, you know, admitting their feelings for each other. So if you want a beautiful LGBT romance that will just sweep you off your feet, also is very, very funny, and the voice telling the story is just brilliant, I would really recommend Red, White and Royal Blue. The next book I wanted to mention is a YA romance, and it is What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. So you'll have hopefully heard me talk about this book. I absolutely loved this book. Honestly, I just found What If It's Us was funny, it was sweet, it was heartwarming, it was a lovely story of first love, and it instantly made its way into my favourites. So basically this is full of musical theatre references, pop culture references, and the two sweetest boys ever. It follows Arthur and Ben, who actually first meet in a queue for the post office, and they have a very like will they won't they moment where they kind of miss their chance of like going on a date. They try and find each other throughout the streets of New York. It's just so epic, it's so lovely, it's so heartwarming. Arthur is just a joy because he's like obsessed with musical theatre and Hamilton, and Ben is a lot more kind of quieter and has like a lot of other issues going on. So I just fell in love with the story. If you are looking for something contemporary, YA, a first love story that will just sweep you off your feet, this is the one for you. And honestly, I'd urge you to read this book. It's like full of joy, full of love, and it's very special to me. Speaking of a book that's very special to me, I had to mention this book because it is one of my all-time favorites, not just my all-time favorite romance novels. It is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Can we take a moment to appreciate my special edition, by the way? Like, oh my God, I'm obsessed. Like, it's one of the most stunning books. Anyway, if you've never read The Song of Achilles, I want you to stop this video. I want you to go on your local bookseller's website, and I want you to order a copy because you have to read this book. If you are looking for an epic, sweep you off your feet love story, you can't go wrong with The Song of Achilles. So this features Achilles and Patroclus from the Greek myths, and basically tells their love story in a very epic, lyrical, beautiful way. This book is heartbreaking, you will probably cry, but honestly, it is a journey, and the writing is just perfection. I instantly fell in love with Achilles and Patroclus' love story. I think, you know, it's just a very, very special book, and I think if you're looking for a romance novel that is a little bit more sophisticated, I think this will definitely be up your street, because it's not just a romance, it's also an incredible retelling of Greek myth. So I think there's a lot more to this than just the romance, but the romance at the heart of this book is just pure perfection. So I really would recommend this book. You probably have heard of this book before. if you've watched my channel before, you probably have seen me recommend this book because I adore it. And finally, guys, we have come to the end of my all-time favorite romance books. My voice is really hurting right now, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I've been talking like forever. But if we are talking romance, we have to mention Sarah J Maas, aka my all-time favorite author. And I'm holding up here the latest book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, A Court of Silver Flames, because this book came out this year and features characters Nessa and Cassian, who basically have their own love story in this book, in this massive chunky book. This is just basically romance, like a massive romance book. Not a lot happens plot-wise, but character-wise, it all goes down. This book is also like very steamy. If you're into kind of a steamier romance, then this book is definitely for you. This is not YA. This is definitely adult romance now. And I also wanted to mention quickly A Court of Mist and Fury, because that book as well, which is the second book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series, is an incredible romance book as well. And I really just lapped up the romance in that book. I was obsessed with it. But I must say, in terms of pure, unadulterated, literally, romance, A Court of Silver Flames really does deliver. It is pure joy from start to finish. You will fall in love with these characters and their love story and the obstacles that they have to overcome to be together. It's just incredible. And honestly, I flew through the pages of this book so quickly because I needed to know what happened, and it was an amazing journey. I absolutely love the way Sarah J Maas writes romance. She's very, very talented in the romance department, and I just adored this book. What can I say? So if you've never read any Sarah J Maas and you're a romance fan, I definitely think you will adore this, especially if you're a fantasy romance fan, which I do actually have my own video on. So I do actually have a video recommending fantasy romance books, which I will leave linked below. So guys, that is just a taste of my all-time favorite romance books. I really hope you've agreed with my choices. Let me know your favorite romance books down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you very, very soon in my next one. Bye.